What happens when one of Hollywood's biggest icons steps onto a morning show set and refuses to follow the script? What you're about to see is one of the most gripping moments in live TV history. Kevin Costner, known for never holding back, had a tense encounter with Michael Strahan on Good Morning America. What began as a standard interview quickly turned into something no one expected. The tension grew, the words exchanged became intense, and by the end, Costner delivered a blow so sharp that Strahan was left speechless, and the entire studio in stunned silence. But before we dive into this unforgettable moment, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment below sharing your thoughts on celebrities who won't back down. Let's get into what really went down. The Good Morning America studio was alive with its usual morning buzz. Michael Strahan was seated behind the desk, his familiar grin ready for the camera. Kevin Costner was the guest of the day, joining to promote his latest project, a Western series that had already been stirring a lot of excitement in the entertainment world. Producers were thrilled. This was meant to be a light-hearted, upbeat interview, the kind of segment that trends on social media and keeps viewers locked in during commercials. As the cameras rolled, Strahan leaned in, his polished charm turned up high. "Kevin Costner, welcome back to Good Morning America. Always a pleasure to have you here." Costner gave a nod, settling in with the ease of someone who's done countless interviews. "Thanks for having me, Michael." Strahan pressed on, checking his notes. "Let's talk about this new series. You're back in the Western world, something you've got a legendary reputation in. But some critics feel like you're just going over old territory again. What's your take on that?" There was a slight pause. Costner's expression shifted just enough for sharp viewers to notice. "Retreading old territory. That's an interesting way to look at it." Strahan smiled, perhaps missing the subtle shift in tone. "Well, you've done Dances with Wolves, Open Range, and of course Yellowstone, which became a huge hit. Some folks think you're just pulling from the same bag." Costner leaned back, jaw tightening. "Michael, let me ask you something. When you played football, did you always throw the same kind of pass, or did you adjust based on what the defense gave you?" Strahan's grin faded for a moment. "Well, I played defense, so I didn't throw passes, but I get what you're saying. Do you?" Costner's voice wasn't aggressive, but it carried a certain weight. "Because the way you just put that makes it sound like stories about the American West are somehow limited or repetitive. These stories are about the very roots of this country, about hardship, sacrifice, morality, and what people are willing to give up for something greater than themselves." He leaned in. "So when you reduce it to just retreading, you're missing the bigger picture." The studio grew quiet. This wasn't the light conversation everyone expected. Strahan shifted in his seat, trying to steer things back. "I didn't mean to say your work wasn't important, Kevin. I was just bringing up a question that's out there. Some people," Costner repeated, eyes locked on him. "Or the producers who handed you that question?" Strahan let out a laugh, but it sounded strained. "Come on, now. This is just a conversation." Costner stayed calm, but his voice had an edge. "Is it? Because it seems like you're more focused on chasing a headline than really trying to understand what we're doing with this series." "Kevin, that's not fair," Strahan responded, getting defensive. "I've shown you nothing but respect since you came out here." Costner raised his eyebrows. "Respect? Real respect means doing your research before sitting down with someone. Respect means knowing that just because a story is set in a familiar time period doesn't make it the same as every other one." He didn't stop. "Let's talk about what really goes on in this business. Morning shows like this one roll through guests like they're on a conveyor belt, asking shallow questions just to get a reaction, not to have any real, meaningful conversation." The air in the studio was now thick with tension. Strahan's co-hosts traded awkward looks. The crew behind the cameras froze, unsure whether to cut or let it continue. This was live TV, no editing, no safety net. Strahan tried to smile again, reaching for his training. I think you're reading too much into a simple question, Kevin. A simple question? Costner echoed, nodding slowly. You're right, it was simple. Too simple. And honestly, Michael, I expected better from you. Strahan's smile disappeared. Excuse me? He asked. You heard me. Costner replied, voice calm but firm. You've been in this industry long enough to know the difference between asking a question that brings real insight and one that just sparks controversy. But you chose the easy route. You framed it to make me sound like I'm stuck in the past, hoping I'd bite so you could have your viral moment. Strahan shook his head, clearly frustrated. That's not what this was about. Then what is it about? Costner pushed. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you care more about being the star than being the journalist. Strahan leaned forward, and there was a sharpness in his voice that rarely surfaced on air. Kevin, I've interviewed hundreds of guests on this show, presidents, athletes, actors, musicians, and I've always treated them with respect. Costner didn't back down. I'm not questioning your respect. I'm questioning your preparation. There's a difference. And if that makes you feel defensive, maybe it's worth asking why. I'm not being defensive. Strahan replied quickly, though the tension in his body said otherwise. I'm just confused why you're coming at me this hard over a routine interview question. Costner shook his head slowly. And that's exactly the problem, Michael. You think it's just routine. You think it's fine to invite someone onto your show, ask for their time and energy, expect them to be open and honest in front of millions of people, and then throw out questions that show you didn't take the time to really understand what they've created. He leaned in just a bit. Do you know what this series is actually about? Do you know what makes it stand apart from my past work? Strahan opened his mouth to answer but stopped short. The silence between them spoke volumes. That's what I thought, Costner said quietly. You don't know, because you didn't ask. You didn't dig. You saw Western, saw my name, and figured you could just wing it with charm and a teleprompter. That's not true, Strahan insisted. I do know what the series is about. It's a family drama set during the Civil War, about brothers on opposite sides. It's about loyalty, betrayal. You read the press release. Costner cut in flatly. Good for you. But did you watch it? Did you talk to anyone on set? Did you spend even 10 minutes trying to understand why this story matters, how it's different, why I felt it needed to be told now? He let those questions hang in the air, heavy with meaning. Or did you just show up, expecting me to carry the weight of the conversation, while you smile and pretend to care? Now the studio was completely still. Even the behind-the-scenes crew had frozen. This wasn't just tense, it was unforgettable. Strahan clenched his jaw. You know what, Kevin? Maybe you're right. Maybe I didn't prepare as much as I should have. But that doesn't give you the right to come on this show and talk down to me in front of our viewers. Talk down? Costner's voice finally rose, just slightly. You want to talk about disrespect? I'll tell you what's disrespectful, treating art like it's just filler. Dismissing years of work, the passion of hundreds of people, with a throwaway question designed to keep airtime filled between commercials. That's disrespect. He didn't let up. You act like having me here is doing me a favor. But the truth is, your show needs content. And today, I'm that content, another name to drive views, another face to keep things moving. That's not fair. Strahan shot back, his voice now rising to meet Costner's. We invited you because we respect your work. We wanted to celebrate what you've created. Did you? Costner challenged. Or did you bring me in because my name trends, and your producers thought I'd spike the ratings? At that, Strahan stood up from behind the desk, a bold move that sent a ripple through the studio. You don't get to come on my show and tell me what my motives are. Costner stayed seated, which only added to his control of the room. Your show? That's interesting. I thought this was Good Morning America. A platform for journalism, for viewers, for honest conversation. But you're right, this has become your show. And that's exactly the issue. Strahan squinted, confused and defensive. What's that supposed to mean? It means somewhere along the way, Costner said, lowering his voice to a firm calm. You stopped being a host and became a brand. You stopped asking questions because you were curious. Now you ask questions because you want to be part of the story. You want the soundbite, the viral clip, the thumbnail with your face front and center. That was a direct hit. Strahan pointed at Costner, his voice tightening. You don't know me. You don't know what I care about or what I stand for. You're right, Costner replied with a nod. I don't. But I know what you've just shown me. And it looks like someone who cares more about being liked than being great at their job. Strahan snapped. That's enough. I think we should move on. Move on to what? Costner asked. The next fluff question? The next setup hoping I'll say something out of line so you get your clip? No, Michael. We're not moving on. We're going to stay right here and have the conversation you should have been ready for from the beginning. Strahan shook his head. I don't think so. I don't have to sit here and take this. You're absolutely right, Costner said, standing now. You don't have to sit here. You can walk off, cut to commercial, do whatever you need to protect your ego. But hear me when I say this. I'm not calling you out because I dislike you. I'm calling you out because I believe you can do better. I think you have it in you to be more than just another smooth-talking host reading off cue cards. The air was thick. Strahan didn't speak right away. When he did, his voice was quiet, measured. So you're challenging me? Costner nodded. I'm holding up a mirror. What you choose to do with it, that's on you. The silence between them was long and heavy. Strahan's co-host seemed unsure whether to speak, watching nervously from the side. In the control room, producers were likely scrambling, trying to decide whether to cut to break or let this unexpected moment continue playing out live. Finally, Strahan eased back into his seat, his expression unreadable. Okay, he said. Let's do this your way. Tell me about the series. Tell me what I should have asked you. Costner looked at Strahan carefully, studying him as if trying to figure out whether this shift was genuine or just another media move. Then, slowly and with intent, he sat back down. All right. Here's what you should have asked me. You should have asked why, after building Yellowstone into a cultural success, I chose to walk away from a sure thing to take on something completely new. His voice was steady but full of conviction. You should have asked what it's like to bet everything on a story that doesn't follow trends, that's not built for fast consumption. To create something slow, thoughtful, in a world that only seems to reward speed and spectacle. Strahan nodded. And this time, the look in his eyes was different. Focused. Present. So why did you? He asked. Why take that risk? Because I'm tired of playing it safe, Costner said plainly, but with meaning behind each word. I'm tired of seeing the same kinds of stories told over and over. I'm tired of watching gifted people sacrifice their ideas because some executive is worried about clicks or focus groups. He continued, his words now carrying more weight. This story, about two brothers separated by war, about families torn apart by beliefs, about holding on to humanity in a time of chaos, this means something. And it means something right now. Look around. We're living in a divided country. Families won't speak to each other over politics. Communities are splitting apart because of differences in beliefs. People have forgotten how to see each other as human. Strahan's voice dropped. That's heavy. It should be. Costner replied without hesitation. Art should carry weight. It should challenge you. It should make you look at the world differently. But you can't do that if interviews begin with "Aren't you just repeating yourself?" He paused, then asked, Do you see the difference now? Strahan didn't respond immediately. He sat quietly, then gave a slow nod. Yeah. I do. And you're right. I should have gone deeper. It's not too late, Costner said. We're still here. The cameras are still rolling. So ask me the real questions. Strahan took a breath. This time, there was no defensiveness, no surface-level charm, just a willingness to try again. Okay. In this series, the two brothers end up on opposite sides of the Civil War. One believes he's fighting for freedom, the other believes he's defending his home. Neither of them is completely right, but neither is completely wrong either. How do you handle that kind of moral complexity without falling into both sides' storytelling? Costner's expression changed. This was the kind of question he'd been hoping for. That's the whole challenge, he said. And the truth is, you don't try to judge them. You don't pick a side for the viewer. You let them be human. You show their struggles, their doubts, the moments where they start questioning everything. Because real people aren't good or bad. They're complicated. They carry contradictions. They're capable of kindness and cruelty, sometimes in the same moment. He leaned forward, the passion clear now. The younger brother joins the Union because he believes slavery is wrong. And he's right about that. But he's also young, idealistic. He thinks war will be noble and clean. He learns quickly it's not. The older brother stays with the Confederacy. Not because he believes in slavery, but because that's his home. His friends. His entire life. Walking away would mean losing everything he knows. Does that make him wrong? Yes. Does it make him evil? That's harder to answer. Strahan didn't flinch. So you're asking the audience to empathize with someone fighting for the Confederacy? Costner nodded. I'm asking them to understand the person. To understand what led him there. Understanding is not the same as agreeing. You can recognize why someone made a choice without supporting that choice. That's what empathy is. And frankly, we've lost a lot of that today. He kept going. We've lost the ability to sit with two opposing truths. We want everything in black and white. This person's good, that one's bad. But that's not life. That's not how history worked. Strahan was fully engaged now. There's a scene in the trailer, he said. The two brothers meet on the battlefield. They lock eyes and freeze. Can you talk about that? That scene, Costner said, his voice warming, is the soul of the whole series. They haven't seen each other in years. Both have changed. Both have seen death. Both have taken lives. And then, right there in the middle of the chaos, they recognize each other. All their beliefs, all the anger, all the righteousness, it vanishes. In that moment, they're not soldiers. They're just brothers. And they realize the war has taken something from them they can never get back. Do they fight? Strahan asked. Costner gave a small, thoughtful smile. You'll have to watch and see. But I'll tell you this, whatever happens in that moment, it won't be what you expect. And it's going to stay with you long after the credits roll. Strahan nodded slowly, a genuine response replacing his earlier on-camera polish. This is the conversation we should have been having from the beginning. Yes, it is, Costner agreed. And we had to fight to get here. What does that tell you? Strahan took a long breath. It tells me that real conflict, honest conflict, can lead somewhere better, if both people are willing to drop the walls. Exactly, said Costner. That's the point. That's what the series is about. And honestly, that's what this whole conversation has been about too. We could have stayed on the surface, said what people expect us to say, and you'd have had a nice, forgettable interview. But instead, we challenged each other. We pushed. We got uncomfortable. And now? Now we're talking about something real. Strahan leaned in, his voice quieter, more thoughtful. I appreciate you pushing me, he said sincerely. Even if it was rough. Costner didn't hesitate. It had to be rough. Because you don't grow when everyone tells you you're doing great. You grow when someone tells you the truth, especially when it's hard to hear. Strahan cracked a real smile, the kind that didn't feel like it was made for television. You know, when you walked out here today, I thought this was going to be just another interview. Quick, easy, 10 minutes and done. Costner smirked. And instead, you got your teeth kicked in. Strahan let out a genuine laugh. Yeah. I did. But I probably needed it. We all do, Costner replied. Every one of us needs that reminder. That we can do better. That we should do better. That's what good art is supposed to do. That's what honest conversation does. It doesn't let you off the hook. It doesn't tell you what you want to hear. It tells you what you need to hear. Strahan reached out and extended his hand across the desk. Thank you, Kevin. Really. Thank you for not letting me coast. Costner shook his hand firmly. And thank you for being willing to actually listen once you got past your pride. The studio audience, which had been silent and tense for the past several minutes, suddenly broke into applause. But it wasn't the usual soft, polite clapping of daytime television. This was real. Energized. The kind of response that only comes when people have just witnessed something honest and powerful. Strahan turned to the camera, now visibly more grounded than he had been at the start of the segment. Kevin Costner's new series premieres next week, he said, voice calm but clear. And from everything we've heard today, it's going to be something worth watching. Not because it's easy or feel good, but because it dares to challenge us. And that's what we need more of. Costner nodded slightly. That's the best any of us can do. Tell the truth as we see it, and hope it connects with people who are also searching for something real. As the cameras slowly cut away and the segment wrapped up, viewers all over the country were left stunned. This wasn't what anyone had expected when they turned on the TV for a bit of morning news over coffee. This was different. This was something bigger. It was a reminder that live television, when it's truly live, and when people are allowed to be truly themselves, still has the power to surprise us. To challenge us. To matter. What we just witnessed wasn't about ego. It wasn't about showmanship. It was about standing up for something. About expecting more from the people around us. And about refusing to settle for less. Costner didn't shut down Michael Strahan out of anger or arrogance. He did it because he saw something being wasted, a moment, a platform, a person's potential, and he chose not to play along with the usual routine. If you've stuck around through this, we want to hear your thoughts. Was Kevin Costner too harsh? Or did Michael Strahan need that reality check? Drop your opinion in the comments. As the segment ended and the cameras panned away, people across the country sat quietly, still processing what they'd just seen. This wasn't the typical morning show moment. It wasn't pre-packaged or polished. It was raw, honest, unpredictable. And in a time when most TV feels like it's just going through the motions, this stood out. Nobody had tuned in expecting to witness a turning point, not just for a conversation, but for what live television can be when it dares to be real. What they saw was something that reminded them that TV still has the power to shake us, to cut through the noise, to actually say something. What just happened wasn't just a celebrity interview. It was a lesson. A reminder of what it means to speak truth, to challenge others, and to turn a moment of tension into something meaningful. Kevin Costner didn't come on Good Morning America looking to embarrass Michael Strahan. He didn't shut him down for attention or out of pride. He did it because he saw a chance to make the moment matter. To call out the comfort zone. To push someone with influence to reach for something better. And in doing so, he reminded all of us that sometimes it takes confrontation to wake people up. If you found this story powerful, or even uncomfortable, let us know. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below with your thoughts. We want to hear from you. Do you think Kevin Costner crossed the line? Or was he exactly right in how he handled it? Did Strahan deserve that tough feedback? Or was it too far? Either way, one thing is clear. This wasn't just another celebrity Q&A. It was a moment of truth. And it's one we won't forget anytime soon.